this video, we're going to look at comparing two functions. Okay, so there's two new words we have to learn here. One is initial value, or two new terms. Initial value, which we can use IV as an abbreviation, and rate of change, which we can use ROC. Okay, these are new terms, but they're not new concepts. The initial value is just our starting output value. That would be our y-intercept, so that's b. Our rate of change is the change in the y values divided by the change in the x values, and that's also slope. So initial value is the same as y-intercept, rate of change is the same as slope. Okay, so let's look at some examples here. First one says, Mr. Roper opens a savings account and deposits $75. When he gets his paycheck each month, he deposits $200 into his account. Describe the initial value and rate of change for this situation. Okay, so initial value is my starting output value. Okay, when I started my account, I deposited $75. So that would be the initial value of my savings account. When he gets his paycheck each month, he deposits $200 into his account. So this is $200 each month. Okay, so that's going to be my rate of change. So my account will be changing by $200 a month. So if I wanted to write an equation to represent this situation, I would say that y equals 200x plus 75. Okay, so that's going to give me, for any number of months that I want to input, I'll know how much money I will have in my savings account. Okay, all right, let's look down here. Now we'll start actually comparing a couple functions here. Okay, we have two examples and we're comparing gym fees. Okay, so the first one is Coach Roper. It says I have a table for my gym fees. In Coach Wilson, we have, just kind of gives us some information. Not a table, not a graph, so we're going to have to kind of compare. Okay, well, if we see what they give us for Coach Wilson, we have an equation, right? C, which would be cost, equals 25 plus 10M, where C is cost in dollars and M is number of months. So since this is an equation, we might want to write this table of values as an equation as well. Okay, so what would be my slope? Well, how would I find slope from tables, right? I could use slope formula. So I could do the change in y divided by the change in x. Well, if I look here, 30 minus 20 is 10. 1 minus 0 is 1. So I would say that my rate of change equals 10. My initial value is where 0 was my x-coordinate, and that was 20. So this equation would be C for cost. Cost equals 10m plus 20. Okay, so now let's compare the rate of change in the initial value for these two gyms. Well, if we look, one thing is the same, 10m and 10m. So the rate of change is the same. Okay, it's both $10 a month. That's the change, okay? So $10 a month. All right, now let's look at the initial value. Is the initial value the same? Well, what is the initial value? The initial value is like the y-intercept, right? So here's my y-intercept over here. Here's the y-intercept over here. Okay, so the initial value, Coach Roper's, was it was $5 less. Okay, so what does that mean in this context? Well, what that means is that whenever I signed up for my gym membership, it was a $20 application fee or something like that, but it's $10 a month. Well, Coach Wilson signed up at his gym, it was $25 for the application, but it's still $10 a month. So you can see over a number of months, Coach Wilson will be spending $5 more because our rate of change is the same, but he has that initial value that's 5 more than my initial value. Okay, so let's compare a couple others. All right, so at the top here, gives us two functions. Okay, one is a graph, one is, once again, just kind of some information. We have some questions over here. It says, which plan has a greater initial value? Which phone will be paid for at a faster rate? So this tells us what we're talking about. We're buying a $200 phone. So from store A, we have a graph. From store B, we have some information. Well, store A, if we look, notice here, our y-axis tells us is the amount owed. Okay, so that's why this is a negative slope, because over a number of weeks, we're going to actually owe less, right? So our slope is negative. It's going downhill. We pay off our debt. Okay, so if we look here, it says our initial value is $150. So that means we owe $150 off the bat. Well, if it's a $200 phone, how much did this person, or how much did we put down at store A as our purchase? Well, that'd be $50. So 50 at purchase. because we still owe $150. Okay, this one says at store B we're going to pay $25 a week. All right, well, let's look over here. At week 1, now I owe $125. Week 2, $100. Week 3, $75. So how much is that decreasing? Well, I could think change in y over change in x, right? So I could think 150 minus 125, and then I have 1 minus 0. Okay, so that would be 150 minus 125 is 25. 1 minus 0 is 1. So this is going to be 25 per week. Okay, so now over here at our questions, it says, which plan has a greater initial value? Well, our initial value over here was $50 at purchase, right? Because that's technically what we started with. That's how much we paid. Over here, store B says it was $75 at purchase. So we paid more here for the phone. We paid less here for the phone, okay? So we would say that our which plan has the greater initial value? Well, if we're talking about in terms of how much we still owe, then we would say that store A has the greater initial value, because initial value is our y-intercept, right? And our y-intercept is 150. Well, over here, if I pay $75 at purchase, what's my initial value that I still owe? Well, if it's a $200 phone, my initial value over here would be $125 because I've paid $75 of that. So which plan has a greater initial value? That would be store A has a greater initial value. All right, but now they ask which plan will be paid for at a faster rate. Well, if we look here, this is $25 a week, and this is $25 a week. So technically the rate is the same, right? The rate of change is the same. Both of these plans are going to pay $25 a week. But which plan at which store will you pay off the phone faster? Well, if we look, we started with $125 here. We started with $150 here. If we pay the same amount each week, then we will pay off store B faster. Okay? So we're paying the same amount each week, but store B's will get paid off before store A. All right, so let's do the next one. It says 2 car washes offer different payment plans for their employees. This is car wash A, this is car wash B, and they want us to write the equation so that we can compare, okay? So we know that our equation needs to be y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b, where m is our rate of change, b is our initial value. Well, we know here b is going to be 50, right? So now let's figure out what our slope would be. Okay, well, we have 0, 50. Let's look at another point that's nice. 4, 100. Okay, so if we thought about, let's see, 0, 50, and 4, 100. Okay, let's find the slope, because slope is the same as rate of change. Well, I do 100 minus 50 over 4 minus 0. So when I solve that, 100 minus 50 equals 50. 4 minus 0 equals 4. So if I divide that, I get 12.5. So now my equation, I would say, is y equals 12.5x plus 50. Okay, so now we'll come back and kind of figure out in the context of what that means after we look at car wash B. Car wash B, whenever x is 0, that's my y-intercept, right? So that's my initial value is 50. And then I got to find rate of change from the table, which is just slope. So I could think 65 minus 50 would be 15. 1 minus 0 would be 1. So 15 over 1. So my rate of change equals 15. So my equation would be y equals 15x plus 50. Okay, so now let's look at these 2 car washes and see where we're going to make more money. Well, if I look here at car wash A and car wash B, all right, this is the total amount earned. So let's say, they pay you $50 a week just to be their employee. All right, but then you get paid per car that you actually wash. So they both pay $50 a week no matter what, no matter if you don't wash your car at all. Okay, maybe you're doing some other things around the shop to help out. Okay, but now we look at the rate of change, and the rate of change at car wash A is 12.5. The rate of change at car wash B is 15. So what does that mean? Okay, this means that for every car we wash at car wash B, you get $15 a car. Car wash A, you get $12.5 a car. Okay, so which car wash are we going to make more money? That would be car wash B. Okay, you both start out at 50, but at car wash B, you get paid $2.50 more for each car you wash. Okay, so let's answer these questions down here. Which car wash has the greater initial value? Well, in this case, we would say it's the same initial value. It's both 100, or it's both 50. Which one has the greater rate of change? That was rate of change, so we said car wash B. And so what does that mean in context? And we kind of already explained that. Car wash B, or both car washes, we start out with a $50, salary basically. And then our bonus or our commission would be $15 a car at car wash B and $12.50 a car at car wash A.